Welcome back to The Good Talk, the show where we discuss what's hot, what's grot, and everything in between in the wide world of Warhammer. Of course, it's Thursday, which means our normally members-only stream is now available to everyone. My name is Adrian, and I'm joined today by Brian Pullen, straight from the islands.
Hello.
How you doing, Brian?
Really glad to be here.
Oh, we're super excited to have you. Today, talking about 3D printing. Is it for you? Should you do it? What are the do's? What are the don'ts? Well, this isn't going to be a how-to guide. It's more like there's a lot of conceptions about what it is, what it can do for you, and honestly, I'll say this up front. We think there's a lot of really great things about 3D printing, and then there's a lot of misconceptions about what it is good at.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say, 3D printing, is it for you? And then I would just say yes.
I know, right?
And then we'd say, good night, everybody.
That's it. See ya later.
Yeah,
we're not very good at YouTube, turns out.
Exactly.
Yeah. Welcome in, everybody. Great to see all these friendly faces. We've got Harborn in chat. We've got Daruckus, Jordan, Espeloid, Selexis, Methuselis. I think I got that better than Mel the other day. Breakdown, T, Willow. Hello.
Hey, everyone.
We're just going to give everyone a second to funnel on in, as that happens with the live shows, especially since this is normally just for the members. So, yeah, but super excited to be here. Super excited to have Brian. We just played a very cool pre-recorded game yesterday, which...
Oh, yeah, that's right. You guys haven't seen that game.
They don't even know.
We just played it.
It was a very Brian Adrian game, I'll say that.
You're not going to want to miss it.
It was very dramatic. It was a fantastic time. Yeah, we're back on screen together. It's exciting. Brian has been around for this week. You've got a game later on today on the channel, which is going to be playing Heresy.
Yeah. Against
Mr. John McCardle. The link is going to go up shortly, basically.
Yeah, White Scars against the Thousand Suns. So I've got my new White Scars army, and so I'm trying every time I show up to come with a new Legion.
I like it.
And I have...
It's a high bar.
Yeah, at least I have a couple more already staged out. And with John coming to be my play partner, I think he owns every army ×2, basically.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to get through it all.
I'm super excited. So join us for that at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then, of course, again on Monday, we'll be back for Mundigmar. So it's going to be a great time.
Yeah, and I'm playing in an Old World tournament this weekend.
Yeah.
Just all Warhammer all the time.
All Warhammer all the time.
That's
It's
my
busy
life.
times. Amazing. Do we have a Linda here as well? So this is this is our new producer-less setup for the talk shows, at least. Linda is working actually on the Horse Heresy stuff right now.
Yeah,
so
she's taking all the cool videos and pictures that you're going to see at the start of the game. So
I love the fact that we get to do the war zones for the Heresy games. It's like the perfect way to do it.
Yeah, it's great.
Excellent. Well, with that, folks, let's dive on in and talk about 3D printing. So 3D printing. Is it for you? This is the question of the day. So this is a technology that's really exploded over the last, realistically, 5-10 years. There's been experimentation before, but really it's only recently become commonly available to a consumer. So there's, again, lots of pros, lots of cons. I always quote you on this one, always, where, we talked about the accessibility of 3D printers and everyone just having one in their house and what's that going to mean. And you famously said to me, they still can't make paper printers. How will they ever make 3D printers work?
I mean, yeah, I don't have a paper printer in my house. I haven't had one for over 10 years because I hate them so much.
Right.
Anytime you try to make a mechanical device like that, anyone knows, paper printers, they jam up, they break, they print wrong.
Yeah. They can't connect.
Yeah, exactly. I think, these days it's a little better than it was before, but
It's still not guaranteed easy one push, right?
Right.
And in fact, not to get too far on the paper sort of metaphor, but like a lot of the time, like if you need something printed, you'll just get it printed at a place or using a service, which is something, frankly, we'll talk about for 3D printing as well.
That's true.
Sometimes it's not worth the headache. So yes, we had a good question from Victor in chat. Are we talking FDM and resin? Yes, absolutely. We both work in resin printing, but we do have knowledge about FDM. We certainly have some opinions, and I think there's a time and a place for them, which is becoming more and more common, right? I think there was a time where I'd be like, I would never touch an FDM printer, right?
No. I think they're both great, and we can talk about both.
Absolutely. Cool. So let's dive on in. So 3D printing, first of all, I think one of the common misconceptions is 3D printing, you go into it because it's going to save you money. GW is always increasing the prices, and we want to stick it to the man and save money. This is not true, right?
It doesn't necessarily have to be true. I would say that it's certainly not necessarily the best reason to do it if you're trying to get into it. But when I was doing my research, getting myself into 3D printing, I kind of had a bit of an assessment on how a 3D printer can save you money. So I'm going to give you basically two scenarios where it saves you money. One, where you're constantly buying things just to get like 1 or 2 parts. So I play Horse Heresy. You need to get an individual gun or spear or whatever, and you have to buy Games Workshop's giant $70 box for one little bit.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but I need many of those. And so there's just things that are economically not feasible. Also, my High Elf army, I want these lions, but you can only get the lions when you buy the whole chariot box. So I have to buy 12 chariots and throw the chariots away. So there's things like that where it does save you money. And historically, you would go to eBay or bit sites and things like that. And sometimes those bit sites just don't have what you need. Okay, that's kind of one capacity where it saves you money. The other one is if you are just printing a lot of models. So let's say you're buying a fairly basic printer, your wash station, your alcohols, your resins and things. You're in for like $500-600 to get started most of the time.
For sure.
And then let's just average it out to say your cost per model is roughly $1 or less per miniature. If you think about it that way, you have to print basically one large full army to basically break even. And if you print 200 plus miniatures, or some things that would have been very expensive, a bunch of characters, a bunch of terrain, you could start to save yourself $500-600 after 200-300 miniatures.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's that break point. You know, what kind of value are you trying to get from it? And how long until you get to that point?
But I also have to specify that a lot of people who buy their first printer, let's say you want to try to print your first 100 models, make your money back. Well, if you don't know what you're doing, your 50 of those first 100 models might be misprints.
100%.
And so that was one of the things holding me back is if I bought the printer and I could just hit print and I got the model I wanted, I would have been doing this forever. But that's just not the reality of 3D printing. You have a lot of dialing in, or even if you get a print, it's like a little fuzzy. It's maybe not quite the resolution you expected, not so crisp. So you're going to want to try again and again and again.
Exactly.
So for that one model you want, you might print it 5 times.
For sure. And I think this happens a lot at first, but even if you're an experienced 3D printer, you get a new file set, it's maybe supported by someone else or not supported at all. You're constantly reiterating. You know, we've had a lot of projects in the studio right now we're working on where we've had exactly that situation. New prints, different supports, so we've had to kind of work with. And so you're always going to have those failures kind of inbuilt, which takes time and money in the form of like resin and time, which is money.
Yeah, materials. It's not just resin, even like isopropyl alcohol.
Yeah, for sure. Like and the potential for damaging things like your FEP, which is in a resin printer, the kind of bottom layer. When you have those failures, are obviously more likely to cause damages and have tears.
Well, and you just wear and tear on it because it needs replaced after every like 500 prints or something.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So yeah, I think for me the primary benefit of it is not saving money. It can under certain circumstances it can be fantastic, but I think what it really gives you is creativity. It gives you self-expression and gives you access to, of course, the incredible portfolio of models that are out there right now. And that, I think, is the best reason to get a 3D printer. It is the person who wants to really fiddle with it. You have to be okay with the process of learning the techniques and
it's
kind of
its own
being second hobby. Exactly, yeah. And then wanting to do that to get like your custom bits or your cool army, your alternate sculpts. That's where it really shines, is that customization.
So, we might have hinted at it, but I've been in and around 3D printing for a long time. I actually used 3D printing in my job 12 years ago, professionally. But I really didn't want to jump in and be a home 3D printer owner until very recently.
Exactly. Yeah, you just recently started doing it.
Just recently, and I'm very deep. I'm hardcore. I've been printing round the clock.
Yes, that's very true.
And we'll talk about how I did that and how I made that jump. But I think for me, what made it, what really wanted me to do it wasn't saving money. Certainly, I didn't save money.
Sure,
the way I did it.
Not the way you did it.
And it's getting just the access. We talk about Games Workshop and all these companies. They have thousands of unique sculpts. But these days, there's this explosion of STLs of companies putting out things on a weekly, monthly basis. And there's just so much amazing stuff. And in aggregate, it's so hard to miss out on getting all those models. And often, if you don't print them yourself, there's just no way to buy them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think while we're on that point, maybe we should look at a few examples of things. I will talk about the 3D printers specifically, and maybe talk about your experience because I've been very curious about it. But just a few examples of cool 3D print projects that are going on right now. First of all, There's a million of these. So these are just a few.
Endless.
Yeah, exactly. These are just a few things that we've maybe used personally in the studio and that we found to be useful. So we can take a look here. This is Piper Makes, who I've talked up a lot because I really, really like her sculpts. And she has this just incredible selection of like, you would say like Tau adjacent sort of mech sculpts and things like that.
You've printed out an entire and painted a whole army of this.
Yeah, exactly. All my Tau is from this. And that was one of my first like real 3D print like armies.
Projects.
And it was because I wanted something different. And I wanted to be able to pose all these models and get really custom with it.
Absolutely.
So super cool stuff from Piper Makes. On the kind of the level we're talking about of like, you can print it yourself. You can also get access to this in different ways. You know, we have like Godforge, for example, who is actually part of our Primark program. They are an official licensor of Piper's stuff. So you can get the STLs from her. You can also get the models printed from Godforge themselves. So
you don't have to have the printer.
You don't have to have the printer necessarily. But if you're obsessive, like us, like if you want to have every weapon loadout and magnetize it and pose them, it's pretty nice.
Well, you know, that kind of takes me to that topic because one of the things that more recently I've had this backlog of STLs that I wanted to get.
Yeah.
And not just, it wasn't even just, oh, I want this model. It was, I actually need this for my army. Like, I cannot continue in my hobby without these few bits.
So true.
And this was particularly true on, I was doing a 40K project where I'm building a CSM Night Lords army.
Okay, yep.
You can't get Night Lords heads officially from Games Workshop unless you buy their kill team.
Yeah, what's it called? Yeah.
And their kill team comes with 10 models. And I needed like 90.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
And it's hard to get too.
It's hard to get, but also it's unreasonable. Come on, am I going to buy? It's not an upgrade sprue.
No.
It's unreasonable. So, okay, so my 40K army, I can't even build it. Like, I couldn't get the weapons, I couldn't get the heads, I couldn't get the bits.
Right.
So that's one problem. Then I have this, I have 3 separate heresy projects, all needed special weapons, heads, bits, things like that.
Right.
Then I had, I'm playing Old World, and they just released this new High Elf book.
Yeah.
And a bunch of models in the book they've never even released sculpts for.
Right.
Okay, so now I need, and there's STLs online for these sculpts.
Like what are you supposed to do? Yeah.
So, okay, so several of my games, all the things I need to do, I needed bits.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, I didn't say, let's go buy a 3D printer.
No.
I said, let's look up some of these print companies, print on demand, and have them print the things I need for me.
Exactly, yeah.
But it turned out that that actually didn't work for me.
Yeah.
For so many reasons. I'll give you just a couple. One, there was no one company that I could just send any STL to and they could print. So some have licenses access to some files, some don't.
Right.
So that was an issue. 2, there's not a clear market leader here. Someone you just know, who you can trust, who always just sends you consistent quality.
It's early days, right?
Right. So you're picking and choosing companies that I don't even know anyone who's ever bought from a bunch of these.
Totally.
It's tricky. 3, you have no idea what quality you're going to get. Every 3D printer is different. Every resin's different.
Right.
Every process of removing supports, everyone's different. And so if I buy from you and I buy from you, I could get 2 vastly different qualities.
Exactly.
The other thing is I don't know if the 3D model is exactly what I want until I see it. So I need to print it and then go back and adjust and print it again.
Yeah, maybe it's a little bit different scale, maybe it's different settings.
Scale is a big part.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you don't really know what you're going to get.
You can't know. There's whatever the creator has done it and recommended that they do it at, but also people will often like tweak the scale to make sure that they're also not directly competing with certain products that already exist.
Exactly.
You know? And so you kind of need to be able to do that tweaking by hand. And it's deliberate, and you can't necessarily do that. It doesn't exist right now to be able to do that easily in a service.
Yeah, and exactly. And then you have this other problem. I'm sitting at home, I'm hobbying. Oh, I'm short 1 head. It's 6 weeks for me to get this next thing. The whole project's on hold.
Exactly.
And then maybe this is a unique problem for me. I live on an island nation.
Yeah.
And so I can't even get deliveries from these things. So I have to wait until the next time I come to the US. And so a 3D printer for me gave me a universe of things that I can acquire now in a place where I can't even get deliveries.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's true for a lot of people. People in remote places, people where it's really expensive to ship to, and then becomes prohibitively difficult. So I think it's interesting how like those businesses are starting to develop, but we're not quite there yet, you know? But there's definitely like a problem that needs solving.
I strongly agree, and I'm really supportive of everyone who's starting up 3D print businesses, but they have to solve these problems. They have to be able to say, you know, exactly how they're printing it, scale. Maybe I can get a test. Maybe, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I find that is not an easily solved problem. So for me, that's the stuff that pushed me over the edge to say, okay, now you're going to have to jump in and print yourself.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about that. So again, this is your foray into 3D printing, and as with everything, you didn't go halfway.
I don't half step on anything. Okay. So one of the issues we talked about with 3D printing is dialing in your settings.
Yes.
If you don't know, when you buy a resin, or any printer, but let's say a resin printer, you can buy the printer, you can buy resin, third-party resins, supported resins, and then you download these third-party models. It's a lot of variables.
Yes.
So you say, it's this model, this printer, this resin, and keep in mind your house is a different temperature, and there's humidity, and did you set the printer up right?
Yeah.
And then, so what this means is either sometimes your prints can fail, but more often than not, it's not that they failed, it's just that it printed, and you're never sure, was that the best print I could have done?
Yeah, so true.
Right? Is it as crisp as it could have been? Are those details as sharp as it could have been? The answer, by the way, is no. You could have dialed it in better.
Always.
And dialing in better means, change the settings, which there's infinite settings.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then wait another 6 hours for it to print, and then change the settings again. But it's not even obvious, did you change setting this way or that way or this one or this one?
Yeah.
So you always walk away with this uncertainty. Am I doing this right? And this is even true of the professionals. The people who are the very best in the world at this, they walk away not knowing, is that the best this thing can do? Or should I try, do I try again, try again?
Absolutely.
That anxiety kept me out of this forever, okay?
Right.
Well, in comes this company. It's called Hay Gears. They've been in 3D printing forever, but mostly at like the commercial industrial level. Actually, they print like dental implants.
Yeah, if you go to their website, it's like mostly
like here, dental implant.
Dental, industries, hardware. It's like not consumer facing.
Okay, but they made these two new printers called the Reflex and the Reflex RS. The RS is kind of like the newer, slightly cheaper version.
Okay, yeah.
Basically the same printer. And they said, what we're going to do is everything is proprietary. So you have to use exactly our resin.
Right.
You have to use our software to prepare the models. And what this means, though, is we will dial in all the settings because we've done all the engineering back at the shop.
Right.
So if you want to print this model like this, we will set all the settings for you. And then it'll come out as perfect as our printer can do it 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so it means that you get practically no failed prints. I've never had a failed print, which is unheard of.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then it also means that everything is as good as it always could be.
Yep.
This has drawn a ton of criticism from the...
I mean, yeah, like when you told me, I was like, okay, Brian, I don't know, let's see.
Like the criticism has been crazy. Like a couple sites that have reviewed this, like beloved YouTube site or YouTube channels that have reviewed these things, and they've said, yeah, they make good prints.
Yeah.
They've got like 100% dislikes.
Oh my
like
gosh.
the community hates this company.
Totally.
Okay? Because 3D printing has always been this open source community. Buy what you want, whatever. And I love open source.
Yeah, of course.
It really promotes creativity. But I hate the anxiety of the complexity that comes with it. So this closed ecosystem actually has worked for me. Now, the thing about the Reflex printer, it's stupid expensive.
It is, yeah. You definitely pay a lot for it. Now, by the way, this is not a sponsored episode. This is just like
this is just the thing I bought.
Yeah.
So the Reflex printer is very expensive, but I knew, and it's the truth, I'm going to print from this thing 24 hours a day for like the next 6 years. And I'm going to print for the studio and for all the things we're doing. Like, we're going to make our money back on this.
For sure, yeah.
But you at home would not.
Yeah.
Unless you're printing for your gaming group.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
But it was the first printer that actually had that plug and play. You literally plugged it in, it auto leveled, it auto heats the resin, it auto mixes the resin.
That's shocking.
It auto does all the settings. You drag in the unsupported STL file, it auto supports, it prints.
That was the big clincher for me. I was like, this is madness, because supporting is like an incredibly difficult, time-consuming, expert-requiring task.
It's a profession.
It is, and like you said, it's also different for every single model, every single combination of like printer and resin and humidity and whatever. So the fact that it can do it all in one is huge for people who want to just plug and play.
Yeah. So, anyways, that printer has been everything I wanted it to be.
Okay.
It's been really exceptional.
Right.
And honestly, it continues to innovate. I just bought they just came out with this brand new resin like 8 days ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's mega flexible for miniatures.
Oh, that's
so
good.
you have models with huge spears.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you could bend these spears full like 270 degrees and they'll just go back.
That's wild.
And that's one problem with printed armies. They're very brittle,
fragile.
right? I have a friend who printed a whole Empire of Man army,
Yeah.
and then he goes to play it on the table, and just like every time he picks up a model, like a spear or a gun breaks.
Yeah. And the problem is it breaks in very brittle, and it shatters, basically.
Unrepairable.
It's not like plastic.
Exactly.
Not at all. Yeah.
And what he actually has to do is they break, and then he actually throws them out, prints new ones, and paints them again.
Yeah.
It's a crazy,
that's
it's
wild.
a crazy experience.
That's absolutely wild.
But the technology is getting there where you can build models that actually can stay.
Exactly, which is so important. I'm honestly glad you brought this up, because I literally had this conversation with Matthew from Mini Wargaming last week at Adepticon,
right.
and that was his biggest concern and critique was the requiring them to use their own resins. And that's like his concern, but it makes sense, right? Like you said, all these settings are different for every single brand. So if their brand is about ease of use and consistency, it's so important. It's so important.
I've always been like a first party kind of dude. Like when I buy a PlayStation, I buy the first party controllers, and you know what I mean, like, and then the first party memory sticks and things like that. So I'm pre-wired for like closed ecosystems. Like I was always on Apple computers, and then I'd have my iPhone and my Apple TV. So it's like, closed ecosystem. I'm like, sign me up.
Yeah. I never have to look elsewhere. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, because closed ecosystems come with that disadvantage of lock-in, and it's real, but it comes with the advantage of seamless interoperability.
Yes.
And for me, as much as I like the idea of 3D printing as a hobby, but not the annoying dial everything in, print failure part of the hobby.
Oh, it's exhausting, it's time consuming, and it kills your motivation for sure. So like, I think, it's a solution that's worked really well for you. I think it's a solution that could work really well for other folks around. Again, it seems like it's going pretty well, so we might be getting one for the California studio soon. And
yeah, because mine's all the way back in Bahamas.
Yeah, it's a little bit, I still have a delay if I wanted something from that printer right now.
That's correct.
But again, we are doing a lot, so I think it could be cool, honestly. Mel says we need one right now.
It's very, 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 very nice. The one other thing about a 3D printer, though, is you don't necessarily need like a whole gaming group can share it.
So true,
you know, and so while the price point on something like this is a bit steep, spread amongst several people, you can make it work.
I mean, honestly, even better than having a 3D printer is a friend with a 3D printer, right?
Exactly.
That's the secret sauce right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Mel says, every time I play my Awoo's, some piece of my basing breaks. Yes, exactly. So Mel has a bunch of, all her basing is 3D printed, and it's very fragile resin, and it's the same kind of thing where you can get flexible resin, but frankly, it does take a lot of tweaking, and we haven't really done that yet, And so right now is, I have a link for the one we have in the studio, because we wanted to do some fairly large prints. So this one has a big print bed. It's just the Anycubic. I don't particularly recommend it or not recommend it. It's just a big kind of standard one.
I mean, it's a well-known, well-respected at this price point.
It's a very affordable one, right?
Yeah.
And so we use the Craftsman resin, which is nice because it prints nicer.
It's high detail.
It's high detail, but it's more brittle. Right?
Yes.
Exactly. So you gotta really, again, it's all about dialing in and figuring out what works for you. Do you want to ensure the highest resolution? Do you want some durability? And the gap between those things is closing. Ideally, you're not compromising on either side of it, but currently, there certainly are a lot of these companies that will sell you different types of resins that do different things.
Yeah.
So just a kind of note there. As far as like what we're using, what we're not using. We haven't done FDM printing. However, the FDM printing has come also a long way in the last few years. One of our painters for the paint studio, actually Colonel Festus, has a really nice FDM printer that he's been using to print a really, really, really nice terrain. And they're able to get extremely fine grain resolution, which has always been the problem, is like thick, big layer lines as you're basically like hot gluing like your layers together. But the gap is closing.
I think, these days, another closed source printer, the Bamboo Labs, they have the best, I think, FDM. And FDM printers traditionally, people didn't really consider them for miniatures, but they were always the perfect terrain printers. And that is still absolutely the case. It costs you less, and they're much more durable, and also they're much lighter. So,
and the cost less is machine and materials generally.
That's absolutely the case. I'm printing an extremely large and detailed terrain set out of resin. just to kind of see, and I'm printing it at fairly high resolution to see the maximum detail I can get.
Yeah.
But if I had the FDM printer at home, I would be using that instead.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just the right tool for the right job. But resin printer, if you're only picking one, resin's the one for me because you can do the terrain, you can do the models.
Yeah.
You can do some miniatures, particularly if they're slightly larger in FDM. And the technology is getting there, but only if you're really dialed in and you have the highest resolution printers these days.
You really got to pay for it, and obviously take a lot of time.
They're slow.
They're very, very slow.
All 3D printing is slow.
Yes, 100%. Like we just did a model that was a 24-hour print. It was super tall, right? The length of time it takes to print a piece is, of course, going to be equivalent to the tallest part of your model.
Yeah, it's not the volume of it, which is what you would think.
You want to go as wide as you can, right?
It's the height.
Yeah, because it prints it one layer at a time. So if you can take your super tall model and lie them sideways, supports willing.
Yeah.
That's the fastest way to do it. But this is not a tutorial episode. So yeah, I think I want to talk a bit more about some other kind of paradigms, maybe mention a couple things that we again use in the studio, and then talk about trends that we're seeing in 3D printing in games and how people are using it to develop new things.
Cool.
So we talked about Piper. This is actually what Mel was referring to, epic basing. We really, really like these, and this was a huge game changer for us because we talked about personalization and customization and those are the main factors, frankly. And epic basing has really changed the game for us for basing. Basing can be a very tedious process. It can be difficult to get something that looks good. This basically is a whole suite of bits that you can print in different schemes and different things that you can use. And it really levels up your bases in a huge way.
I love detailed bases.
Yeah.
And I was always kind of a person who went out to buy nice resin basing.
Right.
And it was historically very expensive.
So expensive.
I've spent more on the basing for an army than the army itself.
Yeah, right, exactly.
For my Ultramarines.
The Ultramarines are beautiful bases.
Famously. Yeah. But they're not even that detailed comparatively to what you're getting today.
Because that's like old school kind of resin casting.
Right.
And this you can just achieve like a whole nother level.
Much more 3D, which you can see here. And so yeah, I'm 3D printing resin bases for all of my armies now, and it's just so cool.
Exactly. And one thing I'll say about this is, if you have access to a 3D printer, buying the STLs is incredible value. Frankly, I think we were talking about a little bit about this right before stream, but like STLs are so cheap comparative to what you get right now. It's kind of absurd. It's it's kind of a disservice to the artist, to be honest.
Yeah, my personal opinion is that STLs are being sold generally for too little, and I'd like to see the artists or the industry charge just a tiny bit more, in the hopes that it becomes a little more sustainable, that the artists make a little more, but also so that they can afford to put more time into more great pieces.
Exactly. Like, look at this. These alocasia plants, it's what is it, $12, $13 for all these things, and you're going to print them like a million times. But it's cool. So there's a lot of customization. You can get them printed like this. You can also buy the resin bits pre-printed. And when you're doing it for something like this, the issues of scale are not, they don't exist so much. And they're kind of you can see preset for certain base sizes. So this is where someone offers a pre-printed product that, the print service is tied to the product. Right? It's already been customized. There's kind of better value that you get there. So another resource if you're looking for STLs or if you're looking to take advantage of 3D printing without the machine, epic basing. And then let's talk about some of these games that are doing interesting things with 3D print. We have, of course, Trench Crusade, incredibly popular right now, had a very interesting launch with a Kickstarter. They, first of all, allowed you to buy individual warbands without a box set, compelling. But also, they offered both physical and digital models. So you could buy their STLs. They're all available right now on My Mini Factory, which they actually, I think, only did afterwards because of the huge demand for them, right? Or you could buy the physical models and they will print those and ship those to you later on. Very interesting because
practically this, like everyone who's playing this game now has either 3D printed their models or kit bashed their own models.
Yeah, this game exists because of the ease of access from 3D printing. And in this case, it's funny. We say ease of access. It's because if this was a traditional game, we'd be waiting probably 2 years for these models to arrive, right?
Well, not only that, it might have caused a lot of people to maybe not buy.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
So the game might not have even been successful to begin with. Not to mention, they undoubtedly used 3D printing in the development of the game, which, if they didn't, would have 10x the cost of of designing the game, right?
Yep.
And so games like this would not exist without 3D printing, could not exist.
No.
And so what we're seeing is the future of games. It's not merely that 3D printing is an option or an add-on. It's enabling new games to exist. It's creating a whole new ecosystem.
100%. And I think, there's always been this fear of 3D printing in the industry. Oh, it's going to take down Games Workshop or this, that, or the other thing. And we're starting to see companies that are embracing it and using it as a tool, that it can exist alongside physical materials or whatever. So like, for example, Trench Crusade is actually a miniature agnostic game. And how do you make money off of a game that doesn't require you to buy any models?
Right.
Well, you make beautiful STLs that are relatively easy to access, and everyone wins. We, the players, get easy access.
Well, they sell
to
the rules too and things like that.
Exactly.
Nice books and things.
Incredibly, one of the most successful miniature Kickstarters of all time, and it's nothing to be afraid of.
If you're, I don't know if you care much about the economics of it, but actually 3D printing has not only grown as an industry considerably, but it's grown all of these other industries. So it's grown the miniature wargaming, et cetera, because typically when you have something like this and you think, okay, this is going to replace buying plastic miniatures, what it actually does is it just brings more people to the hobby.
Yeah.
Even anecdotally for me, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
So I talked about how I 3D print for my Horus Heresy. If I couldn't get those bits, I wouldn't start those armies. If I didn't start those armies, I wouldn't have bought the mountain of plastic kits from Games Workshop. I bought their kits so that I could 3D print the bits on top, and that got me excited about those projects, right? And that's true for all of these games I play. And then I'm getting new friends into it who are excited and being brought in by the 3D printing as well. I've made a couple new gaming friends. They are only playing these games and only buying them now because the 3D printer brought them in.
100%, exactly. And I think, again, games like this, like Trench Crusade, it's related to that in the sense that right now you have that gap between when the physical models are delivered, but people are playing it right now. Partially, obviously, due to conversions and things like that, but also like you don't have to wait, and there's not this like dead period where it's like, oh yeah, that Kickstarter, that game I was excited about, I can't be excited about it anymore.
Exactly.
And it enables getting involved in the rest of the game, the rest of the army, things like that. So
it unlocks
it's a great
creativity as a whole. It brings more people into this, and it makes so many new. Like if you had so many great new games created, the best sculpts, the best terrains, the best whatever, it's going to inspire more people to paint and to play and to collect.
Yeah.
And the more people let's say you brought in 1 million new people to Trench Crusade who had never played gaming before. Yeah. How many of those people will end up trying Warhammer?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
100%.
It's a rising tide that rises, like lifts all boats sort of thing. It's going to make the entire industry more exciting and accessible. And even, I know more people who are playing D&D now than they used to.
Oh my gosh.
And they're all buying cool new terrain bits and 3D printing stuff. It just makes everything more fun.
Exactly. There's been a lot of interesting stuff in D&D. There is Eldritch Foundry, and then the original one where you can design your D&D character and they'll print it for you.
My Hero Factory.
My Hero.
Isn't that what it's called?
My
Hero Forge.
Hero Forge. Yeah. So and that was in some ways like an early kind of predecessor to a lot of these things that you're seeing now.
Totally right.
So absolutely agree. More is more, and it's exciting times. So cool stuff going on with Trench Crusade as always. And let's see. I think I want to talk about something that's adjacent to it. So War Machine, of course, recently purchased by it was Privateer Press, now Steamforged Games, relaunched in the fall. Crazy time. Again, it's a classic. I don't know what decade we're in. We're talking about War Machine again, but they just announced their My Mini Factory tribes, basically. So like subscription, and I believe they're going to tie this in as well with their in-game app, which is pretty compelling. And they are also doing this sort of like dual approach. You can buy the physical models right now, which frankly are actual 3D prints.
They 3D print in-house.
They 3D print them.
To you.
Yeah, which is wild. But I think it's also enabling them to basically pick up this old line and quickly develop and put stuff out where there's like this massive backstock of like old like legacy things, and a lot of which they're old resin or they're metal.
Yeah.
And so they quickly are able to convert them over. This basically is monthly packages, just like any tribe. Here you can get actually all the old Cephalix, which is a really cool faction. I never got a chance to play because the game, died. And you get them all basically in the welcome pack along with, again, terrain, as we talked about.
Very cool.
And these are things that are very expensive for a company to produce en masse. big terrain
They're
kits.
practically impossible.
Yeah,
And
you never see it.
Yeah, the molds are expensive. Shipping, warehousing is all crazy. Retailers can't stock it. It's just
It's so impractical.
It's things that couldn't exist.
Right.
And because they couldn't exist, you couldn't design the game to require terrain, right? So
Right.
you actually even had to diminish the game itself because you couldn't get the product into people's hands.
War Machine's always been a very 2D game with like barely any terrain on it, which makes it's a shame because it's very beautiful aesthetic. But the boards themselves were like
A little dull.
a little bit dull.
Yeah.
So you get that. You get a little bit of like the custom parts. I think they mentioned alternate sculpts at Adepticon as well. Another great way to like add value on top of the other physical things. So.
But this is another example of a game that can't exist without 3D printing.
Like-
the entire thing's coming back to life, and new great things are going to be possible because of it, right?
Right.
And we the game, we just win.
Everyone wins. This is just cool stuff, like no matter what, like we wouldn't see all these amazing projects.
And so even if you don't have a 3D printer, the increase in popularity of them is enabling this industry to grow, and then you can buy it direct from them.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
But the fact that other people can print at home is enabling this next generation of what this industry is going to become.
Precisely. Speaking of next generation, let's talk about another interesting example, probably the most extreme. So Malediction is a game that just finished on GameFound, and this is from Loot Studios, who are best known for putting out probably one of the biggest STL packages on the internet. They have a ton of things from miniatures to like, they'll always have like cool crowns or gems and you can print out.
Very, very, I would say D&D centric.
Very D&D centric, yeah.
But I'm actually using several of their miniatures in Old World.
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's really cool, like classic kind of high fantasy stuff.
One of the highest quality, most consistent.
Exactly.
The studios is very respectable.
They do great stuff, and they said, you know what, we're all about 3D printing, so we're going to launch a game. This is a game that is fully 3D printed.
Right, they're not offering any models for sale. You have to actually print them.
Yeah, there are small exceptions. Like at Adepticon, they had a couple of the models, but that's like not.
That's a special thing.
That's a special thing. So just say that for the people who were at Adepticon. This is a fully 3D printed game where you basically buy, and even at Adepticon, it was funny. You could buy basically just the deck of cards with STL's code basically that would give you the models. Or if you wanted, they would also sell a bigger box that had like your standees. So you could do stand-ins, decide what models you actually want to make for your army,
and then
only print those ones. So it's a very interesting model. It's not really hybrid. It's pretty much fully digital.
I mean, I would say it is hybrid because they have these starter boxes that have the standees and everything.
Yeah.
And so you can buy and play the game in that mode, and then you can kind of upgrade to the models. But either way, it's just one of another examples of this trend changing.
Yeah.
Right. And we're seeing quality products that are great games you'd want to play that again couldn't exist without 3D printing.
Exactly. So I'm following this with keen interest because it is kind of a test of like, can a fully digital game do well and succeed? If anyone can do it, it's Loot Studios because they're known for that, and things like that.
Well, they've clearly made great models.
Yeah, exactly.
The game looks great.
Right.
I haven't actually had a chance to play it yet, but you have it here, right?
We picked it up at Adepticon.
So we'll try it out.
Two armies, and we got the standees because we wanted to try it right away. Like,
totally.
It was exactly the perfect thing. So we got the sort of like primal blood faction, and then the ghost faction. We were like, tell us about the 4 factions, and he went through like all 4 of them. I was like, oh, this is easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Ghosts and like berserkers.
Yeah.
No problem.
Doesn't seem like a fair fight actually.
for the berserkers.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like if you're just a bunch of strong guys trying to punch ghosts.
Exactly. I was like,
I mean, if you're really strong, I feel like you could punch into the
other
ether.
dimensions.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're like really working out, you can do it.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so true. So yeah, those are just a few examples of things that we wanted to cover in regard to 3D printing.
You know what's actually been really hard for me? So 3D printing for me has been nothing but a success recently.
Sure.
I love it. I'm so excited to print. I've actually I'm super organized about it, so I have all these STLs and I have like this print log of everything that I'm going to print into the future, and I know how long everything's going to take, so I have it scheduled, so I know what month I'm going to finish what.
Yeah.
But my printer is scheduled out for like 6 months already.
That's amazing. Is it printing right now though?
So I can remotely set prints, but I can't remotely clean them. So no, it's unfortunately
not there yet.
It's not.
You're losing time, man.
I am losing time. I gotta get home.
I gotta go.
But cleaning the models is actually the hardest part of it. So I'm still learning to get better at that.
Totally.
But actually, the thing that's been the most challenging, and many of you might say that this is obvious, but it wasn't obvious to me, is the like super toxic smell of 3D printing.
Yeah.
So I have I have this room where I was going to put it in, and I have like lots of windows and fans.
Right.
And I kind of watched a lot of videos online, and they were saying, yeah, you got the 2 windows open, you got like through fans,
Right.
it's going to be fine.
Right.
It was not fine.
No.
Not only was the smell mega toxic
Yeah.
in the room, but with the door closed, like 6 rooms over, it was toxic. Like if it coming under the door.
Yeah, totally.
Like my throat was raw from it. And that's after the 2 windows
bad.
open with the fans.
So bad.
So I was like, whoa, I had to stop the printers.
Yeah.
I bought like industrial grade air filtration systems that have VOC filters and carbon filters and everything.
Very important.
And with those running on full blast, and it's for a room 8 times the size of the room this is in, I can still smell it.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
It's crazy.
So it's not cool to put these in your house.
No. You have to be extremely safe. Make sure it is. Just take all the precautions.
No, and when I go and clean my models, like I have glasses and I have a mask and I have the gloves and everything.
For sure.
And you honestly, like, I think you might think, oh, you're a bit of a dork with the glasses, but when I'm cleaning these models, like liquid resin bits are shooting and they're hitting on
So
my glass.
true.
I'm like, I would have had liquid resin in my eye.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad I wear all this protective equipment.
So true.
But no, just the smell alone is pretty intense. And so I'm actually gonna have to like build like almost like a shed type thing.
Yeah.
And actually have it outside.
It's really gnarly, and the materials are really hard to clean up too. You know, like you really truly need things like isopropyl like on hand, ready to clean up, because it will just ruin things that it touches. And one thing to note is also there's this thing called a resin sensitivity, where you can touch the resin, don't recommend it, and you might not have an adverse reaction. But what can happen is over time, your body actually just builds up until it suddenly develops a sensitivity, and then you literally cannot have this thing even in your house. So, like, you'll actually have an extreme reaction. So obviously there's all the innate health benefits of like, make sure you protect yourself for like long-term health, but even if you like didn't care about that, you could suddenly be unable to print. It's a weird thing that does happen.
You build up an allergy to it.
Exactly.
And so the thing is, even after you've fully printed a model and it's done and it's cured, I'll like put it in my dining room to like show people, and it off gases.
It does off gas.
And we can still smell it. So it's like my number one problem with 3D printing is the toxicity.
For sure.
And so if you don't have a good place to do this, and you're not prepared to take it very seriously and safely,
Don't do it.
It's not worth messing around
It's not
with.
worth your life.
Obviously, the FDM printers are a lot less toxic and a lot cleaner to work with.
Yeah.
So that's another kind of big check for them.
For sure. Yeah, exactly. FDMs they're awesome. Yeah, we have a bunch of filters and a bunch of things running, and then I also got a big grow tent for ours. So like everything happens inside of the grow tent. You can seal it up, and there's even a filter in that. So like, just protect yourselves. Do your work, do your research, do your education. That's the number one thing.
Actually, I struggled with that because a lot of people, a lot of the like hardcore 3D printers online, they're like doing their video, and in the background is like 3 resin printers. And they're just like, they live in this room 8 hours a day.
Oh no.
And they're like, yeah, it's fine. And they'll like show their air filter, and they're like, yeah, the air's mostly okay. And like, I thought, oh, this guy lives in a room with 3 printers going all day. Like, it must be okay.
Right.
It was not okay.
No.
Those guys are crazy.
And it's also like, this is still new technology, so those long-term effects, you just can't take the risk on.
No, you know it's bad, okay? You smell it, it smells like death.
Therefore it's death.
And then like your nose is burning and your throat is raw, and you're like,
It's true,
but
it's
like,
true,
what's the long-term impact? No. It's not good. Don't mess around. Like,
so true.
Come on.
Exactly.
There's no world where it's okay for you.
Right. No, don't feel bad, Shane. Shane, we're gonna print up some Trench Crusade for him. He's gonna do the Sultanate, which will be cool. Let's see what's going on in chat. We've been kind of just going, so our lives in a grow tent. Yes, very true. A big thank you to James Earlcast for the super chat. Appreciate it. James says, I'm currently running the Inquisition campaign on Kickstarter. I'm a small creator making a living out of STLs. Love the topic and all the good talk, guys. Very much
awesome.
appreciate
Well,
it.
go
Thank
check
you.
it out. As I said, I think that STL creators are not quite getting paid enough.
Yeah, for sure.
But I actually see the industry growing quite a bit, and so you're going to get more buyers. So even if the price per STL doesn't go up, you'll get more buyers. But I think maybe you will. But you're seeing a growth in STL creators
That
as
is true.
well.
Yes.
But there's always room for someone creating a quality product. And actually, I was shocked. As many as there are a ton of STLs out there was only a handful of creators that like I got really excited about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Yeah, it's hard because with any creative endeavor, when there's a lot of people going into it, it can often be a race to the bottom with art. You know, we've worked as artists, we've worked as commissioned folks.
We've both been 3D modelers.
Both been 3D modelers.
Yep.
It is so difficult to not undersell yourself. So, you know, again, hopefully more clients, changing the culture a little bit there, and I think there's always still a lot of room, like you said, like room for like solving interesting problems too.
Yeah.
You know, I think a lot of people default to like obvious kind of proxies for things, but when someone does something really creative, really compelling, oh, I love it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
The thing I'm really, really excited about over the next little while is terrain. Because I'm a sucker for terrain.
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for like boards that are almost like diorama grade.
Oh, yeah.
And that's traditionally been, for all wargamers out there, like unachievable.
Yeah, right.
But 3D printers, man. It's still an unachievable project with a 3D printer. Like it's months of work.
Right.
But like now it's possible.
So we're doing a trench board for not only Trench Crusade, but also like Kriegers for 40K and stuff. You know, printing all the sandbags and the lines of like wire and stuff, which is really difficult before. I'm feeling like I'm kind of reverting to like old school bases where like the mats are great, they're awesome, they make it more accessible, but I kind of really want
I'm
the 3D
super over it too.
Yeah.
I want, and the thing is,
there's literally foam boards right there because we're actually going to build some.
I'm going back too, man.
Yeah.
Let's go back.
Let's do it.
We're
Let's
going
just
back
be old together.
The one problem with boards like that is storage.
2 problems for me. Storage and seam lines. I hate seam lines.
It
takes me out of it so much. I'm like, it's a beautiful board, and then it's just like,
so
horrible.
Okay, we're absolutely aligned on this.
Yeah.
So there's 2 answers.
Okay.
1, no seam lines.
No, it's like one giant board.
Full board.
Why not? Why not? You animal.
Just get a massive shelf that can hold like 6 boards.
Yeah, no problem.
Full size. Okay?
Right.
Take the car out of your garage.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Just get the boards in. Okay? That's the answer.
Yeah, 100% the answer.
Or if you're lame, just like less seam lines, but like lots of like scatter rocks and stuff.
You can be smart about it. So my plan for the trench board is actually basically there's going to be a trench right at the seam lines, and then I have baseboards that are on the bottom, and you just lay that flat, and that covers up that seam line there. I'll show you.
Hell yeah.
It's good, right?
I'm into it.
It's good.
But I also love terrain glued down where like the flux seamlessly goes.
I know. It's so impractical. It's so good.
But there's some games, like a Trench Crusade, like a lot of the skirmish games these days, funny enough, like Horse Heresy, there's games that work with boards like that. 40K, not so much, because you're putting the objectives in different spots and all these things. But a lot of these other games, they work with it.
Exactly.
And the nice thing, I like Lord of the Rings and stuff, especially games like Marvel even, where the board is a little smaller, and you could achieve a one piece.
Yes.
That's pretty exciting.
I'm exactly. Not to keep talking about Trench Crusade, but Trench Crusade, MCP, I want to do some cool boards for, like a Wakanda board would be super sick.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's kind of
it
a
would
fun,
be
exciting
sick.
place.
Let's do it. Let's just print everything. and again, like I'm really into like small Lord of the Rings boards and stuff like that too. So
yeah, diorama terrain.
Diorama terrain. It's fun.
That's where it's at, honestly.
It's where it's at.
It's so cool.
Let's go.
Mordheim. We would love to do Mordheim, honestly.
We would love to do Mordheim.
So sick.
Mordheim's almost like I'm gonna have to level up my printing because the quality of Mordheim board I'd want to create would be each building would probably be month of printing.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so many parts.
I've always wanted to do like a hand-built Mordheim board where it's like each of the bricks is done, and
I actually
each
watched a lot of
thing.
YouTube channels
There's
who are doing it.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
They're killer.
For me, honestly, gorgeous Mordheim board or nothing. Like, I don't want to do just like a standard. Like, here's your little
it's
village.
kind of cool. You can make a really nice Mordheim board and then also use it for like D&D or something.
Oh, it's great for D&D.
Yeah.
Those like dense settings are perfect for it, honestly.
Yeah. Nice.
I think it'd be super sick. This is why I love Brian. Go all in.
I'm a very all in.
True. I mean, that's how. The only reason any of this happens is by being extreme. You know, like you just find your passion and you just go for it, and then that's the only way it works, honestly.
Yeah.
So, a lot of exciting things happening in the 3D print world. Any final questions, let us know, because we're going to be closing out. But I guess, in recap, 3D printing, is it for you? This is not a YouTube video where we just say yes at the end. It's actually, it really depends. Make sure that you are wanting and willing to put the time in. If you do, there is incredible value. If you're doing volume, there's value. If you want customization, there's value. And there's a lot of exciting things happening with games and creators right now. So like if you're interested, there's never been a better time.
Yeah.
It'll probably only get better. But
so.
you know, it's
well, and the
certainly
printers
great.
every year, the printers are leveling up pretty fast.
Oh my God, they get cheaper
the last,
and better.
Like, 3-4 years has been a dream.
Yeah.
So there's a YouTube channel actually I might recommend. It's called Warhammer.
Warhammer. Oh yeah. I know Warhammer.
Yeah, he's kind of like the biggest guy
Yeah.
in reviews for 3D printers, and he knows his stuff. And you know, if you look at a review from like 2 years ago of a printer, and like the same company now, like they've come a long way.
It's amazing. I mean, we did our first one. We were in the garage still, and actually was an Anycubic had reached out and said, "Oh, we want to send you like a printer for review."
Right.
We're like, "Yeah, we'll do it. Let's try it out and see what's up." And it was mind blowing at the time, but then you know we got the next one and the next one, and every time it's like, I couldn't possibly use that other one.
Exactly.
Unusable. Like it just moves so quickly, and it has become easier. Honestly, obviously there's like knowledge that builds up over time, but genuinely the products are becoming easier. Again.
And
This
they're
guy
more
literally
feature rich too.
Yeah. I mean, you swore off 3D printers basically, but now we're at a point where you found one that does work.
It crossed
for you.
the threshold, and it's a little pricey, but I bet all the features that are in the Hey Gears Reflex that I have, you can get most of those features in the Anycubic or the Frozen or the whatever else, just with a few upgrade kits that you buy from them.
Yeah.
And they're going to be including all those features default in their like $500, $600 tier in just like 1 or 2 years.
Exactly, it's coming quickly.
Yeah.
And the last thing I'll say, like although things like that are expensive, the breakages are the failures are where the breakages happen, and that's where you start having to replace parts and screens, and sometimes that starts to add up to the cost of a whole nother printer anyway. So there is something to be said about quality. I will say that.
Yeah, the build quality of that device is so high. Yeah. And the thing is also sometimes you buy these printers and then they make a new version so quickly that they don't even support the old one anymore. Yeah. So you can't actually buy a replacement part.
Yeah. And then you have to go third party, which sucks, and it's just like brutal.
Pretty rough. And then that's just another variable for you.
Yeah, exactly. Amazing. Well, Brian, thanks first of all for coming on.
Well, I'm glad we're talking about 3D printing. I'm so stoked about it. I've been having a lot of fun. Next time I come, I'll show off a bunch of stuff, or maybe even I'll just like record on my phone a bunch of stuff I've printed at home, and we can share it.
That would be fantastic. Of course, let us know in chat. Let us know in the comments below if you want to see more of this kind of content, more discussions around things in the hobby, essentially. I think it affects all of us. So, you know, we are very excited. Of course, don't forget, check in just 2 hours from now where we have a live Horus Heresy game, Brian Poland versus John McCardle, Thousand Suns versus White Scars. It's going to be an
We got both Primarchs.
Oh, yeah, let's go.
It's going to be a ton of fun.
It's going to be great. If you're not familiar with Horus Heresy, don't worry. Most of us aren't. They'll walk you through it, and we'll just have a good time together. We'll laugh and roll some dice. Well, folks, that's going to do it for us. We'll catch y'all next time on the tabletop. Bye!